Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be a review of this knife, and this is the Ocaso Strategy. So Ocaso is a newer company. I actually heard about them because a friend got some of their knives and had a good customer service interaction with them. So then I saw them on Instagram and was interested because I always love getting to check out new brands. It's one of the things that I really like to do as part of Knife Thoughts. And then I was able to meet Rick of Ocaso at Blade Show this year, and he was kind enough to send this knife as well as the Solstice, which I have a review on, and then also the blacked out version of this knife for review. So huge thank you to Rick for doing that. And this also gives you an opportunity to see the kind of unique packaging that these come in. So you can see that this is a triangular box. So rather than your typical rectangular, it is a triangle. So pretty interesting. Got some info here, and then you can see this is the black aluminum and black PVD blade version. So there are several different versions of the Strategy. So the version I'm going to be doing the review on basically is the G10 and satin version, but there is this black aluminum version. So this is not G10 but aluminum, and a black PVD coating. I think this one looks really great. It has a really cool kind of matte black look to it that I didn't really want to mess up, scratch up, or anything in use for the review. So I do really like the look of this black version, but there are also some other versions. There's a natural G10 handled version and some things like that. But I think this one has a really good, just matte black look to it, like I said. Now, speaking of the fact that this is satin, one of the things I'm going to get right into here is that this knife is a D2 steel blade. So K110, which is like the German version of D2, if I understand it correctly. But you can see it says D2 also. Now, a lot of people kind of talk down on D2 these days. D2 is a steel that has been around for a while. It is not technically stainless, but it's right on the edge of having enough chromium to be stainless. So for me, I treat D2 like almost like a stainless steel. So a lot of people do kind of pop, or however you say it, poo-poo, I guess, not pop, poo-poo D2. I think it's a great steel, especially when heat treated well, and I think that this is heat treated well. Now, because it's not super stainless, you can see I actually took this knife into the ocean. So went on a quick little beach trip and took this knife as well as some other D2 knives. I didn't intend to, but I actually took only knives in D2 and a Swiss Army knife. So it was kind of an interesting test of D2's, rust resistance, as well as one of them had a coating, and that one did a little better. So the coating can help. But you can see I took this literally into the ocean, had it with me all day, didn't oil it or anything like that, and it just got a little bit of pepper spots. So that's not going to affect your use at all. So for me, D2 is a very reliable, familiar steel. But at the price point that this is, $150, I think there are going to be some people who, aside from the actual use practicality of D2, are going to kind of look twice at the fact that it's about $150 and has D2 steel. There are knives that are a good bit less expensive that have what people generally consider to be better steels, particularly being that it is made in Taiwan. Now, speaking of that, I like a lot of Chinese made knives, I have no real problem with having knives that are made in China. I know a lot of people do. I think if you do, probably it would make sense for you to prefer that it's made in Taiwan versus China. So that's kind of a positive. It's a little different. I have met people who work at knife companies in China, and very, very nice people. So it's not something that's a big deal to me, but I do like to point out when a knife is specifically made in Taiwan versus China, because I know some people do care about that. Now this knife is designed by Mike Wallace. So Mike Wallace, a custom knife maker, and he makes kind of really practical, kind of hefty, burly fixed blades mostly. And I think that this knife, it kind of fits along with that while making the design a little bit more gentlemanly or EDC type. So it's really comfortable in the hand. I don't always love finger scallops like that because my fingers are pretty chunky. But for me, it fits perfectly. I think pretty much anybody this is going to fit really well, unless maybe you have really small hands, like you're a smaller woman or something like that. I think for most people it's going to fit really well in your hand. These finger scallops are going to work well. I found that this was really ergonomic in use. I really do like the handle. Most of the time I say that a simple handle makes for an ergonomic handle, and I think that that is true, but in this case it feels really good. There is contouring along the edges that also helps with the feel in the hand. And then, you know, a more typical pinch grip like this, that at least for me, I use this more, you know, when I'm using a knife. I find that it's pretty comfortable in that grip also. The blade is also very utilitarian. You can see that it's a pretty classic clip point style blade. You've got some straight on the spine, then a clipped area, nice long clip, so it makes for a usable kind of acute tip. And it does have a nice drawn swedge. I love the look of that swedge. I think it really makes this clip point look very classic. And then with it being a clip point, you've got some kind of straight edge here, and then a nice kind of gentle curve of the belly. So it works for your normal cutting. I don't, you know, think that there's going to be much typical usual EDC cutting that this isn't going to work for. And I think that it would be a fine kind of harder use outdoor, even hunting, and even, you know, like tactical type stuff. I think that the design of this knife lends itself really to anything, and that's what I said there. I think that the utilitarian nature of Mike Wallace's designs just kind of brought it into a more EDC friendly package here with this design. And it's kind of interesting because the same, but even more so, is true for the other knife, or the other model I reviewed from Ocaso, which is, the Solstice. This one is designed by Andrew Demko. So Andrew Demko is well known for very hefty kind of hard use designs, and this is a very gentlemanly design. So it's interesting to see Ocaso getting these really good, really well-known designers and having them kind of, you know, I don't know, class up, but not class up, but just make their designs a little bit more EDC friendly, a little bit more gentlemanly, and I think that they've done a good job with both of these designs. This also has the same type wraparound pocket clip. I remember there was a SOG knife that I had that I didn't like the wraparound design for the pocket clip, but on these I haven't found any issues. I think it's because they're fitted pretty well, so there's not a lot of space below the clip here on this edge. So it sits very deep in your pocket, and it even kind of looks like a pen clip. So if you're someone who wants to carry a knife but doesn't want everybody knowing you're carrying a knife, I think that these clips are really good for that. And that goes along with this kind of gentleman's knife theme that I'm kind of getting at here. I think that, you know, both of these knives are knives that you could carry in an office. This one, the Strategy, is just a little heftier, right? So compared to the Solstice again. So here is the Solstice compared to the Strategy. And you can see that they're, you know, pretty similar lengths. The Strategy is just a little heftier. I'll show you it in comparison to the classic Ontario RIP Rat Model 1. You can see the Rat 1 is a little bigger, but they're kind of similar in size. The Strategy is a little more streamlined, I would say. And then here it is compared to a Benchmade Griptilian. Similar length, a little bit more streamlined, which all again goes with that theme of a gentleman's knife. So I have enjoyed getting to carry and use this knife. I think it's a very kind of classic utilitarian design. I think that it looks good. It's a good classic looking knife. I do think that at the price point that I see these at, $150, you know, there's going to be some competition in the market. I don't know that it's you know, the most value. If what you're looking at is the materials, I don't know that that price point is going to seem like the greatest value, but it does come with the great design of Mike Wallace. And although they don't share the OEM of these, they are made really well. So you can see there is some milling on the inside. Mine came very well centered here. As you can see, the flipping is great. This is, again, even after being in the ocean. And the lockup is great also. It cuts well. It seems to be ground well. So I think it's made really well. It's just that with these materials, there are knives at a lot lower price with the same materials. So a really nicely made knife, a really nicely designed knife, not the most premium materials for $150, but I have really enjoyed getting to check out this Ocaso strategy. So thanks again to Rick for sending this knife along. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. Check out my other social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.